The classroom was silent, except for the scratching of pencils on paper. Outside, the sun shone warmly over the small American town, but inside, tension weighed heavily on the shoulders of a young boy named Ethan Miller. He was only 16, yet he felt older, as though life had already demanded more of him than he was prepared to give. His father worked double shifts at a factory, and his mother cleaned houses in the neighborhood. They weren't poor, but money was always stretched thin, and Ethan had learned early that every little choice mattered. On that day, the choice before him was written in neat, black ink on the sheet of paper in front of him, his final exam in history class. One grade could determine whether he would receive a scholarship for college, something his family desperately needed. His hand trembled as he stared at the questions, realizing he hadn't prepared enough. His after-school job had drained his time, and his younger sister needed help with homework every night. A folded piece of paper slid onto his desk. Ethan glanced to the side and saw his best friend, Tyler, motioning with his chin. "Use it," Tyler whispered. "It's the answer sheet." For a moment, Ethan's heart raced. He could take it. Nobody would notice. With one glance, he could guarantee himself the grade he needed. His mind spun, what would one little lie hurt? After all, wasn't it unfair that his life was harder than most of the other kids in school? Didn't he deserve a break? But then, almost instinctively, he remembered the words his father had repeated countless times after long, grueling workdays. "Son, you can't control what happens outside, but you can always control your mind. And the mind is the master of your actions. If you keep it honest and disciplined, no storm in the world can break you." Ethan's eyes burned. He folded his hands under the desk, closed his eyes for half a second, and took a deep breath. The temptation clawed at him like fire in his chest, but slowly, deliberately, he slid the answer sheet back toward Tyler. Tyler frowned, but Ethan didn't care. He returned to his blank paper and began to write what little he knew, determined to face the consequences. When the results came back, Ethan didn't get the top grade. In fact, he barely scraped a passing score. But what he did earn was something invisible, something that settled deep inside his chest like a glowing ember, the quiet strength of honesty. That moment became a turning point. He didn't fully realize it then, but it was the first step toward understanding that controlling his mind meant controlling his destiny. Years passed, and Ethan carried that lesson everywhere. In college, while others gave into distractions, he built a routine, waking early, working hard, and reminding himself daily of his father's words. He didn't always succeed. There were times he failed, stumbled, and doubted himself. But he learned that discipline wasn't about never falling, it was about training the mind to stand up again, no matter how heavy the failure felt. By his junior year, he had developed a reputation. Professors praised his integrity. Classmates often came to him for help. Yet the real test came not from books or grades but from life itself. One summer, Ethan took an internship at a corporate law firm. The office was dazzling, marble floors, glass walls, and men in expensive suits who spoke with the confidence of kings. Ethan felt like an imposter in his thrift store shirt and scuffed shoes. But he was determined to learn, to earn his place honestly. One afternoon, while reviewing case files, Ethan stumbled upon something strange. Buried in the fine print of a contract was a clause that would cheat a small, family-owned business out of millions. His supervisor, a slick lawyer named Mr. Carter, noticed Ethan's hesitation. "Don't worry about that part," Carter said, clapping him on the back. "Just copy it over. Clients don't need to know every little detail." Ethan's stomach twisted. He thought of his parents, people who had worked hard their whole lives, people who would have been crushed if someone had stolen from them in the name of business. The easy choice was silence. The dangerous choice was honesty. That night, Ethan couldn't sleep. His father's words echoed again, "Control your mind, son. The moment you let greed or fear master it, you lose yourself." The next morning, Ethan walked into Carter's office. His palms sweated, his voice shook, but he spoke with the courage that only comes from discipline. "Sir, I think this clause is unethical. I can't be part of this." Carter's eyes narrowed. "Do you want to ruin your career before it even begins? This is how the world works." "Maybe," Ethan said quietly, "but it's not how I'll work." He expected to be fired that day. Instead, something unexpected happened. Weeks later, the senior partner of the firm called Ethan into his office. I heard about what happened with Carter, the partner said. Most interns would have kept their mouths shut. You didn't. That takes guts, and honesty. We need more people like you. That moment changed everything. Ethan was offered a full-time position after graduation, not because he was the smartest, but because he had proven he could control his mind in the face of temptation. But the story doesn't end there. Life had more tests waiting. At 27, Ethan married Claire, a schoolteacher with a heart as big as her smile. They built a small but happy life together, filled with love, laughter, and the occasional struggle. 1 year later, tragedy struck. Claire was diagnosed with a rare illness that drained her strength day by day. The medical bills piled high, and Ethan found himself drowning under pressure. One evening, after a long day at work and an even longer night at the hospital, Ethan sat in his car, staring at the steering wheel. His mind whispered dark thoughts: take the easier way. Cut corners. Lie if you have to. Nobody would blame you. But then he remembered the 16-year-old boy in that classroom, the one who had chosen honesty over cheating. He remembered the young intern who had spoken up when silence would have been safer. And he realized something powerful: controlling the mind wasn't a one-time victory. It was a lifelong battle. He wiped his tears, straightened his shoulders, and whispered to himself, discipline now, peace later. So he doubled his work hours. He cut back on everything except what truly mattered: Claire's health and their love. He spoke honestly with his boss about his struggles, and instead of judgment, he found compassion. His colleagues rallied around him, raising money, bringing meals, and reminding him that when you walk in integrity, people walk with you. Months later, Claire's health stabilized. The doctors couldn't promise a cure, but they promised time she and Ethan cherished more than anything. Every sunset they watched, every quiet meal they shared, was a victory of mind over despair. Years passed. Ethan eventually became a mentor, not just in his career but in life. He gave talks at schools, telling young people the same thing his father had told him: you can't control what happens outside. But you can always control your mind. One day, after giving a lecture on honesty and discipline at a local high school, a student approached him. Her name was Lily, and tears streamed down her face. I was about to cheat on my exams, she confessed. But your story, it made me realize I'd only be cheating myself. Thank you. Ethan smiled, his eyes moist. In that moment, he understood the true power of controlling the mind. It wasn't just about grades, careers, or even personal victories. It was about planting seeds of courage and honesty in others, seeds that could grow into forests of change. And so, Ethan's journey became more than his own. It became a reminder to everyone who heard it. That discipline is not about perfection, it's about persistence. That honesty is not about convenience, it's about character. That controlling your mind may not make life easier, but it will always make life worth living. Because in the end, storms will come, temptations will whisper, and struggles will weigh heavy. But if you can master your mind, you can master your fate. And that is the power of honesty. That is the power of discipline. That is the power of controlling your mind.